futboleros, ¿cómo están? Espero que se encuentren muy bien. Amigos, la selección peruana ya inició su rodaje en la Copa América ante la selección de Chile. Un partido que terminó 0-0, pero es un punto muy valioso para la bicolor. En un partido donde la selección peruana tuvo una muy buena defensa, un mediocampo que estuvo muy productivo, pero quizás en la zona de ataque fue donde más quedamos a deber. Ahora se viene un partido muy bueno ante la selección de Canadá, que viene de perder por 2-0 ante Argentina en el debut de la Copa América. Amigos, en este video les traigo a un invitado muy especial. Es un analista deportivo canadiense que también tiene su canal de YouTube. Su nombre es Stavros, lo estaré dejando en la caja de los comentarios para que vayan a seguirlo. Bueno amigos, sin más preámbulo, esta va a ser una entrevista donde él nos dará a conocer más acerca de la selección canadiense y cómo llegan para este partido. Sin antes pedirles por favor que se suscriban al canal, me apoyen dejándome su buen like y también su comentario. Ahora sí, vámonos con el video.
Hola, hi everyone. I'm Stavros, Toronto sports guy on YouTube. I'm a Canadian soccer YouTuber, or I guess football YouTuber, as you guys say. Big Canada soccer fan, and I'm incredibly excited about Canada having an opportunity to play in the Copa America and a big opportunity to play against Peru in this tournament.
Thank you so much, my friend, for being here. So I'm gonna ask you some questions about Peru and Canada in the Copa America. So the first one is, what is your prediction for the Peru against Canada match?
For the Canada versus Peru match. Now I know for you guys, you're probably seeing this match as the best chance you have of winning a game. We're also seeing this match as the best chance we have of winning a game. This is probably the biggest game for both Peru and Canada at the Copa America. And I think it's going to be a fantastic game. It's going to be very close. I could see either team winning 2-1. My prediction is it's going to be a 1-1 draw in a very, very tight match, very close match. And I think Canada's going to get a goal from Jonathan David or Kyle Aaron. Peru is going to get a goal probably from a legendary player of yours, possibly Flores. It's going to be a good game, and it's going to be a 1-1 draw.
Do you remember Flores because he played on the MLS on DC United?
I do.
We have a lot of Peruvian players playing on the MLS. For example, Raul Ruiz Diaz is a very good striker on the Seattle Sounders.
Well, Seattle Sounders, we played them 3 times in the final of Toronto FC, so I'm very familiar with Rui Diaz. He's a fantastic player for Seattle.
But he's very hated here because he don't make goals with the national team. He has very poor statistics with Peru. It's incredible.
Sometimes it happens with players where they're fantastic players and they can't find the net for the national team, especially when they're abroad. The travel distance and all that, it can make it difficult sometimes. I hope if he gets another chance, he gets something for you guys, because he is a great player for Seattle in Major League Soccer.
Well, he's not with the squad that traveled to the USA for the Copa America, but how do you think the Peruvian national team will do it on the Copa America?
I think that, honestly, in this group with Chile and Argentina, I think we all know Argentina's winning the group. I think there's no questions about that. But I do think that second spot in the quarterfinal is up for grabs. The second place spot in the group is up for grabs. And I think, you know, you guys would need a result against Canada and you need a result against Chile, but I think a result against Canada is possible for you guys. I also think a result against Peru is possible for us, and I think both of us have a solid shot at getting a result against Chile. So I think that for everyone in this group, second place is a very possible position to get. I think it's completely up for grabs, and I think all 3 of Chile, Peru, or Canada could possibly grab that spot. So it's going to be a complete war, and we'll have to see. I'm not going to make any predictions right now on who gets that spot, but it's going to be a war to get it.
Okay, I understand. Tell me, what do you know about the Peruvian team?
My knowledge on the Peruvian team is not very good. I mostly just know the guys who have been in or around MLS the past couple of years. For some players, I know Araujo from Portland, Abram from Atlanta United. I know him as well. I know a lot of those Peruvian players in MLS, they come up and they do very well in MLS. So it scares me for the overall quality of your team in this tournament.
Great, so now tell me what are the best players in Canada?
Canada's best player, I think everyone knows, world-renowned Alphonso Davies. Bayern Munich left back, has won the Champions League with Bayern Munich, won multiple Bundesligas with Bayern Munich, has been a regular starter for the Canadian national team since he was 16 years old. Alphonso Davies is by far and away our best player. But what makes Canada dangerous right now, what's made us so much better in recent years than we had been, is the fact that we have a lot of guys who aren't Alphonso Davies, who are also very good. We have Jonathan David, who's our second best player right now. I think in the past couple of years, he's been consistently, for the past 3 years, a top 4 scorer in the French Ligue 1. I think he's, in the past 4 years, the top scorer consistently year after year in Ligue 1 behind Mbappe. And he was a big part of their 2020-2021 championship winning team. We also have notable players in Europe. We have Kyle Larin, who's our all-time leading goal scorer. He scored 29 times for the Canadian national team. He's in the Spanish La Liga with Mallorca. A massive achievement for him and that club. And we also have Steven Eustáquio, who's playing for Porto and is playing in the Champions League this season with Porto as a midfielder, and Alistair Johnston, who is a starting right back for Celtic.
I want to ask you something about the player Eustáquio, because I know that he played first for Portugal team, so now he's playing with Canada. What happened there?
He grew up in Southern Ontario. He was originally from Southern Ontario, and then he moved to Portugal and went through a bit of the youth academy system there. So he, as a youth player, was called up to the Portuguese team. He had a couple injuries in his early 20s and got loaned out to Liga MX. I think he missed an entire season, played one game and one whole season in Mexico. And so he kind of fell off the Portuguese national team radar. They didn't see him as a viable player because he spent a significant chunk of time in his early 20s injured. So Canada called him up, and then the injury stopped. He stopped being hurt all the time. He started playing very, very well, and he rose himself up to a very high level of play. Thankfully, he had tied himself to Canada before he hit that level.
That's very interesting, because also in Peru we have some cases. For example, Gianluca Lapadula, Oliver Son are maybe the most recognized players that are nationalized, and we have them on the team. So I would like to ask you, what is your opinion about the nationalized players, or players that grow up in another country but now they play for national team?
Well, I think ideally you would like them to want originally to have played for your country, but I don't see any problem with a dual national deciding or changing their mind and what country they want to represent. A lot of these guys are very young when they first have that option, and they don't really know what place they identify with or what place they want to play at as they get older. I think a lot of them do sometimes hold out looking for the chance to play for the better team. But I think, especially if guys are traditional, if their background is from one country and they grew up in another country and they choose, later on to represent the country that their parents or their grandparents are from and not the country they grew up for, a bit of both for Eustáquio. But if they choose to represent the country that maybe they didn't spend their teenage years in, it's completely fine for them to come back. I'm more than happy to have them come back and play for our country.
Yeah, I think that it's very good to have more options, more players that grew up on Europe in our case, so they have a different preparation. It's very cool to have them. So I would like to ask you now, what are the recent achievements of Canada?
Yeah, so obviously, I think the world kind of recognized Canada when we qualified for the 2022 FIFA World Cup. That is the biggest achievement that this team has ever made. It was the first time we'd qualified for the World Cup since 1986, and the second time ever that we qualified for a World Cup. Beyond that, we in 2023 made it to the finals of the CONCACAF Nations League, which was the top competition in CONCACAF for those who don't know. And we lost in the finals of that tournament to the United States. But those are the two biggest achievements recently for Canada. In the last Gold Cup, we were eliminated in the quarterfinal, but we didn't have our top players during that tournament. And the Gold Cup prior to that in 2021, we made it to the semifinals of the CONCACAF Gold Cup.
It's very great hearing that Canada is achieving important things. They were on that 2022 World Cup. They have so many players in Europe and really good players, as we mentioned on this interview. So I hope that it will be a great match between Peru and Canada and that we can enjoy this beautiful sport. Thank you so much, Stavros, for being here, and remember that you are always welcome on my channel.
Thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure. I hope, for the sake of one of us, that one of Canada or Peru can qualify to the quarterfinals of the Copa America. I hope that one of us qualifies, personally. If Canada doesn't make it, I want Peru to make it over Chile. But yeah, thanks for having me on. And if anyone wants to see a more Canadian take on the Copa America, previews from a Canadian point of view of the Copa America, subscribe to my channel. It's Toronto Sports Guy on YouTube, and follow me on Twitter at Stavros_Greer. Thank you so much.
Y bueno amigos, ¿cuál es su pronóstico para este partido? La selección peruana ya necesita marcar goles para buscar la clasificación a la siguiente ronda de la Copa América. Dejen su marcador en la caja de los comentarios, que los estaré leyendo a todos. Amigos, espero que les haya gustado mucho este video. Ya saben de que me apoyan mucho dejándome su like, suscribiéndose al canal. Y bueno, nos vemos en un próximo video. Adiós.